Okay, well, I've come up with a solution that I think is going to work for me without requiring me to redo all of this wiring. I'll show you what I've done. I've removed the bottom standoffs and I've replaced them with just a couple of washers. These are M3 nylon washers, and they give me just enough clearance. It's actually, the lighting is maybe not making it quite the clearest, but they give me just enough clearance here that these solder joints will not touch the bottom carbon. It looks like they're closer than they are because of the way the light's shining, but they have plenty of clearance and they're not going to make any contact. It would be very prudent to cover this with liquid electrical tape, but I haven't done that because I am out of it right now and need to order more. So I think this is going to be okay. I've run copters like this before with no problem. You would really have to just shatter the bottom plate or shatter the PDB to really make contact there, which is, it's not impossible, but it's not very likely. Having done that, we can now set this on here, and there is enough room on top. So there you can see, and now nothing is pinched and nothing is snagged, nothing is going to break or get torn or anything like that. I feel pretty good about this approach. I would feel better about the approach that they recommend in the official assembly instructions, where you've got them wrapped underneath and coming out the side, but it's a little too late for that. And now we've got the captive nut placed here. I'm fortunate enough that it's just being held in by friction. And I'm going to go ahead and screw this screw in and into the captive nut, and it'll hold that plate on. One of the things that I wish the designers of this board would have done a little differently is given fewer different sizes of nut. Yeah, see, I'll never capture this on camera, but maybe I can. You can see this one is just like 2 millimeters too short. I've picked the wrong size. So I have to back it out and start over. And it's a little crazy. The the size of nut, the size of screw that you use in the back is a different length than the size that you use in the front. And I'm not sure why that is. See, that's not the right freaking size. I don't know what I did wrong there, but that is not the right one either. Well, aha! There we go. Yep. IKEA, where are you? IKEA could have made this so much simpler. Colored bags. You know, my son has Lego sets, and the bags have numbers on them, and the instructions say, you know, take bag number 1 and dump it out and then build with these pieces, etc., right? Well, that's what I need for these screws. I need colored bags or numbered bags to tell me. Okay, great. And ta-da! So that's on. The screws are inserted, the nuts are tight. I think there's some controversy, personally, in my own mind, about whether to Loctite these. These are not nylocks, so my preference would be to have these be nylocks. And some frames do that, so I know it's an option. Since they're not nylocked, you certainly could argue that you ought to Loctite them. But if you're going to be taking this off anytime you need to work on the copter, maybe you shouldn't Loctite them. I don't know. Anyway, there you go. Okay, with one wall assembled, let's start thinking about the rest of the copter. So we got the receiver here, and I have tested the receiver separately off camera. I normally like to use some clear heat shrink or clear silicone tape on the receiver. I do not have any of that at the moment. So I'm just going to wrap it in electrical tape. It doesn't mean that I won't be able to see the LEDs to tell me, you know, if I ever have trouble connecting, looking for the green LED to tell you that you're bound and connected is a good troubleshooting step. I will not be able to do that, so be it. Always make sure that you're not accidentally pressing the bind button. If the bind button is pressed when you power up, you'll lose your bind. So I'm just pushing the button here just to make sure that it's not being compressed by the tape, and it isn't, and it seldom is. Here's the video transmitter. It's going to go on here, and you never want to power up without your antenna connected. This may be less of an issue for a high-end transmitter like the Unify, which perhaps is designed to be able to take a little bit of being powered up with the antenna off without killing itself. I don't know. But at this point in the build, I always will just attach an antenna. These little crazy ponies are very nice just as a dummy load. Make sure that you've got the right kind of antenna. This one has a pin in the middle. That's an SMA. This one has no pin. That's an SMA. And that's how you want it. Okay, so now we'll figure out where that's going to go in a minute. When hooking up the camera, I always eyeball the wiring to be sure I've got it correct, even if there's only one way to plug this in, right? But you can plug it in backwards, and maybe you accidentally installed the lead from a different kind of camera. Always just double check that you've got power, ground, video correct, and you're not going to fry your camera. It's always a good idea to double check that, just a sanity check, just as you're working. Now, I may need to loosen those back up again to get this on, but I'm willing to bet I can slide it on. But I kind of want to just see how this is all going to go together before I commit to putting the top on. Make sure you don't install the camera upside down. Some cameras have the connector on top and some have the connector on bottom. Usually you can rely on the wording here on top and here on the back. Or if you want to really be sure, you can of course hook the camera up and double check it. I'm giving some twists. I need to twist the other way. I'm untwisting the wire. I don't want to do that. I'm giving the wire some twists to take up the slack. That's my lazy approach to avoiding shortening the wire. Oh, I'm losing half a gram. And I'm going to need to... Can I slide it down? I might be able to get it down in there. A way that I have been doing cameras recently is to take some rubber O-rings, or silicone O-rings, the same O-rings you use for soft mounting your flight controller, and putting them on the sides here over the screws. And they provide just enough friction to hold the camera angle while still allowing you to sort of push it up and down and adjust it at your whim. I haven't done that here because the thought of trying to sort of keep all that together while doing the captive nuts and all that nonsense just makes me want to die. So I haven't done that, but you could do that and it might be a good idea. I'm going to find some other way to hold the camera angle. It's great that they've sent a camera with a top connector here. Cameras with a bottom connector sometimes rub on the bottom plate if the camera up tilt angle is not is too extreme. So yeah, looks like you're going to be able to get as much up tilt as you could really possibly want. If this stack was a little taller, it would limit the amount of up tilt you could get. So there you go. I do want to acknowledge that the official instructions say to mount the top of the body to the side plates first and then install them as a unit, which is not what I've done. I did the side plates first and now the top. And the reason for that is that I had the complication with the wiring, so I didn't want to just set it down on top. I wanted to figure out the routing of the wires individually for each one. And then what they tell you to do is to put the antenna through and screw the antenna on, good and snug, and you just give her a bend here. Seems good. That's really frickin' clever, actually. It's clever because this is always where the TBS Triumph is a fantastic antenna and very durable, and this is always where they break. So they've done a very clever thing by keeping the part that always breaks on the inside. It does mean that eventually something else will break, but it's very clever. Let's see if I can get that to extend it just a little more. Yeah, just like so. That's fine. That's fine. And I'm half tempted to just leave this loose in here and let the tension of the wire sort of hold it in place. I acknowledge that we're not going to be able to get at the button to change channels, and that's a little annoying. I should probably put this on my preferred channel before I install it. I don't really see a way that I can mount it so as to be able to get at it. Maybe, yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it loose and just let it sort of set in there. I want to give it some twists though to take up the slack on the wire. Alrighty, I've gone through the steps to change this over to my usual channel, 5740. I've unlocked the high power ham operator mode because I am a ham operator, KM40TN. And I put it at 200 milliwatts, which I think is the preferred output power for flying in a group. If you fly by yourself, feel free to put it at 800 or 500 milliwatts, but it's polite if you're flying in a group to be at around 200, 250 milliwatts to reduce the amount of interference with other people. And it's a little bit, they've made this as easy as it can be with a single button, with long press, short press to go through the menus. They've done a fantastic job of having the LEDs light up to show you where you are in the menu and what your current option is. I think they've done as good a job as you could possibly do, but any single button interface like this is inherently annoying. The nice thing is that the Unify has a protocol. It's basically a serial protocol that comes in over the audio line. So even if you're using audio, typically you'll only have a mono microphone, so you'll only be using one audio channel, and they use the other audio channel to talk to the flight controller. So for example, there is a custom thing that is in the world where you can use a Lua script, which is a way of programming your Tyrannus, basically. You can use a Lua script on your Tyrannus to use the buttons on your Tyrannus to change the band and channel. Or if you have a Brain FPV, it can talk the serial protocol to this, and you can control the via the OSD. Or of course, if you have the TBS OSD, it can control this using the OSD. So that would be my preference if you've got this Unify. It's a very nice video transmitter. Don't let the fact that it's got a single button interface hold you back. There's any number of ways of configuring it via programmatically instead of having to go through the interface. And you can see that once I stick this in here, I'm going to have to open this up to get back at it. So that's just life. Maybe I could kind of pull it out the back or something. I don't know. Make sure I don't pinch any of these cables. Here, we're going to just kind of work this down in here. Yeah. That's all good. Now, I talked earlier about what a nice, snug fit this was. Oh, that's not gonna... I don't think that's gonna have enough room. I don't think that's gonna have enough room. No siree, Bob. I think it's pretty questionable. It's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What can I do? Okay, that's definitely gonna go. Alright, well, I've just went and confirmed with the official assembly video, and they definitely do it exactly how I've got it pictured here. I think the issue is that they've got just the Cyclone. They do not have the PDB or ROSD in here. And presumably they have done builds with a PDB, but this is not going to fly. I don't see any way that this is going to work. So let's just see. I mean, will it go even without the antenna present? Can I just... Will this stuff all fit? I mean, presumably it will. presumably it will. So we're going to do that. Yeah, that's going to go just fine, but boy, there is no room in there for an antenna. That's for dang sure. Yeah, you can see maybe if you were to kind of cram it in that corner over there, but I'm going to have to figure something out here. Yeah, that's going to be it. So I can kind of, if I just sort of slide this in, I can just barely get it to there. And I think that's good enough that I can get a zip tie around this brass fitting here, maybe, and one right here. And that's, I think, going to be how I'm going to do it. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's it right there. That's how I'm going to do it. For sure. Another thing that I overlooked earlier in the build is to install a zip tie right here. There's a little cutout right there. Get a zip tie on there for strain relief. If your battery ejects in a crash, you want to not be tugging on your PDB. The way they've done this, if they've got one slit here for the zip tie, so the zip tie has to kind of make a diagonal here, right? And that pulls the carbon up against this corner here. I would prefer that there were two cuts, two slits, so that the zip tie could go flush across. The carbon will be the power cable will be pulled against a flat surface. It would still contact that edge, but it wouldn't be pulled up against that edge by a tight zip tie and reduce somewhat the odds of it cutting into it. What you want to do, in my opinion, is you want to put it right here in between where the antenna screws on and the base, so that there's a little bit of a depression there for it to really grab onto and keep it from getting pulled either direction. See, it sits down in that depression. And then to keep it from getting twisted, and then to keep it from going like that, we're going to do one more just on top of this nut. Make sure when you're doing this that you don't kink this wire. A little bit of an S-bend is fine. A kink is bad. What about like that? Maybe, yeah. So we'll try like that. Okay, guys, that's it. That's the build. Yep, that's snug. I need to do these antennas with zip ties. Just take a zip tie, put it, oh, I don't know where. I guess on the sidewall. Yeah, probably on the sidewall coming off this way. Just take a zip tie and then heat shrink this to the zip tie. But I'm not going to do that. I'm running out of time. I got to go do a live stream. So I'm not going to do that right this minute. We're going to call this provisionally done. There's your build. Battery strap, I guess, goes through the bottom. I guess this is really too thin for a top-mounted battery. I've been thinking about that. Where's the battery going to go? But I guess it's clearly for a bottom-mounted battery. And the for the camera angle, oh, that's clever. For the camera angle, what you could do is you could just pass a zip tie through these cutouts here and then to the other side and back around again, and that'll kind of, I don't know, figure something out there maybe. Or the old approach that I use is just to take some foam tape and just put foam tape on top, put 3 or 4 layers of foam tape, and then press it to place, and then put a zip tie around it like a belt through the top plate to compress the foam tape and hold the angle. I don't know. There you go. That's the build complete. I'll have my thoughts about the frame in a review video, which I've either already released or will release soon. But for now, we're going to call this one done. Happy flying.